I've been told most of my life that the religious nuts, zealots, and suicide bombers are Muslims, and they don't respect life, and they want to kill everybody, and you too. And but it seems to me that this has really been a propaganda from the Zionists and Israel to get Christians and Muslims fighting each other, so that exactly what could happen is that Israel could take over the Middle East and get the United States out of there. So it seems obvious. Right? It's like I always say, I'm a C student. So if I can figure this out, I know they know this stuff. So how does the United States not know that Israel really wants them out of there? How do they not know that Israel really wants us fighting their wars with Muslims and that they're really not our enemy because they weren't? How does this, again, like if I know this, how do they not know it? And why would Donald Trump and everybody right now who's in charge of things, who's people who are above Donald Trump, why would they allow us to be kicked out of the Middle East like that and give it over to Israel?
Right. So I think the main reason is that these religious fanatics have spent centuries planting the seeds, embedding themselves into power so that they would control all levels of power in the Western world. So let me give you an example of this. It's always been assumed that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent responsible for a honeypot operation on his island. Bill Gates, Bill Clinton would go and he would film them in compromising positions, and then he would blackmail them. But if you actually read the Epstein emails, what you would recognize is that he wasn't actually doing blackmail. In fact, these very famous, powerful people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they were trying to become his friend. Bill Gates was asked, why were you hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? And Bill Gates' response was, well, I was trying to get money from him for my foundation. And that sounds kind of weird. Like, you're the richest man in the world. Why are you begging Jeffrey Epstein for money? And the answer is that because Jeffrey Epstein was an operative for a very powerful organization. The emails don't tell us what the organization is, but look, he was involved in Libya. He was involved in the great financial crisis. He seemed to have a pulse of all geopolitical events. And he said that, you know what, if we can anticipate geopolitical events, we can make a lot of money. But that can also mean that if we can manipulate geopolitical events, we can make a lot of money. There are rumors that he was somehow involved in 9/11 as well, because we only have access to at most 50% of his emails. Then you ask yourself, what organization would he represent? And the closest speculation, okay, and again, this is speculation, is the possibility that he was a representative, a political operative of the Chabad Lubavitch, which Tucker Carlson mentioned in a monologue a few days ago. Chabad Lubavitch has been around for a couple of centuries. And they are Messianic Jews who want to usher in the end times. And another piece of evidence to suggest that Chabad Lubavitch is very powerful is that Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, he is a Chabad Lubavitch family. His entire family is part of this movement based in Brooklyn. And what is Jared Kushner doing now? Well, he and Steve Witkoff are Trump's envoys to peace in Ukraine, right? Then they went to Russia to negotiate peace with Putin. Then they went to Ukraine to negotiate peace with Zelensky. They're very close to Netanyahu. And during these Iran negotiations, they were Trump's peace envoys. But, during the negotiations, Steve Witkoff went on TV and said that he suspects the Iranians are a couple of weeks away from weapons-grade uranium enrichment, which for him is to say that the Iranians are negotiating in bad faith. So he wasn't looking to reach an agreement with the Iranians. He was looking to sabotage, torpedo negotiations. And so is it possible that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, they are trying to manipulate geopolitical events in a certain way that achieves their eschatology, that they are operatives of religious individuals, and there's a script in place, and they're just the actors in this script. So the Chabad Lubavitch movement is something that we can look at. Also, the Freemasons, right? Because the Freemasons are the ones who control the national security apparatus in America. And a third of U.S. presidents have been Freemasons. The most famous Freemason, of course, was Harry S. Truman. He was a 33rd degree Freemason, the highest level Freemason. He was the 33rd president of the United States. And he was the one who ordered the dropping of nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which sit on the 33rd latitude. So are all these coincidence? I'm not really sure. Okay. But it seems as though there are very powerful people who are extremely religious, and they believe that they've uncovered God's plan, and they are patiently, methodically embedding themselves into power so that they can achieve their eschatology. And they feel as though this is the moment. This is the moment we've been waiting for 500 years. And another 5-10 years, and we'll achieve our plan. And that's why we see so much anxiety in the world. That's why we see so much desperation in the world right now.